Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tim Lee. I'm a research analyst at Red Cloud Securities. I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on gold exploration today. We will hear from Cherie Leedon, a CEO, and Craig Perry, chairman of Gold Bull Resources. They will provide an overview and outlook. Then we will take questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. During this Gold Bull webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to the company's forward-looking statements outlined on pages 2 and 3 of the company's corporate presentation that can be found on the company's website, goldbull.ca. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. Please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures related to Gold Bull. I'll start off with just a few comments about the general theme related to today's presentation. Gold Bull is focused on gold exploration in Nevada. There has been an emerging theme of digging deeper for gold exploration targets in Nevada. There's been a lot of exploration work done in the state, and much of the near-surface targets have been worked over. Thus, we're increasingly seeing companies focus on deeper targets, whether entirely buried deposits or deeper root systems of near-surface mineralization. With this comes an increasing reliance on geophysical tools to help guide drilling in the search for deeper deposits. So with that said, we have Gold Bull presenting today. Gold Bull's flagship is its Sandman project in Nevada, which hosts a near-surface resource, but may have the potential for a larger system at depth. With that, I now turn it over to Cherie and Craig to update our audience on the company.
Good on you. Thanks, Tim. Very good introduction. One thing I'll just say there is that you mentioned looking deeper, and certainly we've got some targets on our Sandman property that fit the description. But the extraordinary thing about Sandman is that the resource base we have at the moment is sitting right there at surface, and we're expanding it very, very rapidly. So it's a rare beast for Nevada in a sense, in that you've got a large and growing gold resource base there that sits right at surface. So we're confident that we'll this one day will be a mine, given what we've got. Look, the other thing about Gold Bull is that this is a very exciting story for the time, in that we represent extraordinary value in today's market. We've got a market capitalization of less than $20 million, and some of the viewers may know me, but I'm the chairman of Skeena Resources. I'm a founder of Vizsla Silver and Vizsla Copper, where we've got our Panuco project. I was the founder of NextGen Energy and ISO Energy. And ISO Energy, both of those companies, we made large uranium discoveries in the Athabasca Basin. Of all of the companies I'm involved with or have founded, this represents the most extraordinary value today, because we've got a very significant resource base there, growing all the time. We're putting out drill results all the time that are very positive, in a company that has got a valuation that's not much above Shell valuation. So great time to be looking at what we've got here. Of course, this sort of blip in the market that we're seeing at the moment, correction in precious metals, is sort of presented a further opportunity. So now's the right time to be looking at and getting positioned in Gold Bull. I'll just kick off. Our mission here. We put our foot on the Sandman project through Cherie's great work. Cherie and I worked together at Rio Tinto 15 or so years ago, and have looked to do business together ever since. We started the sort of concept of Gold Bull about 2 years ago, and kicked off strongly with the acquisition of first serious sale of an asset by Newmont to a junior in the US for many, many years. So to be able to get a deal like that done with a major talks to the trust and capability of our team, but the trust that Newmont has in us and our team to advance a project, steward a project well, and grow a serious project there. So that was a stellar outcome. We raised $14 million last year at a valuation of 50 cents. I think we're trading at about 20 cents today. So, further data point suggesting that we're in deep value territory, and again, a good time to be looking at the company. And look, our goal here is to grow a serious resource base around Sandman. We've got some fantastic other properties and projects in the US, particularly in Nevada, and Cherie will talk to those. We've got we're TSX listed, of course, well funded, albeit we've been drilling very actively and putting out some spectacular drill results over the last 6 months. So funds are getting down, but we have great funding capability. I think my group of companies last year raised over $220 million, and we're on track to raise more than that this year. So we have great access to capital. Very importantly, Cherie's put together a first-class exploration team down in Nevada, and the guys are doing a good job, and you'll see the capability there, the quality of the work they're doing as we get into some of the technical aspects of this presentation. We've got a good tight share structure, and of course the board and management team own a heck of a lot of that stock as well, so we're in shape there. A little bit about the capital structure. We've got 67 million shares out, trading at 20 cents today, so really sort of about a $15 million market capitalisation. And I think for the resource base we've got, the results we're getting, and that exploration upside that we're demonstrating, that represents extraordinary value, and certainly in my personal portfolio, the best value and the best upside that I have at the moment. So our commitment, this is very important because we're fully aligned with shareholders. We've written big checks ourselves and continue to do so, and will continue to do so. We take ESG principles to heart, and I think that is so very crucial when you're trying to do a deal with Newmont or another major. Of course, not only do they want to see their projects progress successfully by a good, strong technical team, but having a strong commitment to environmental responsibility, safety, and community and general integrity is so very, very important to those guys. And I think we were actually one of the lowest bidders on that Sandman project, but they went with us because of our firm commitment to those principles. And that's something that you don't always see in junior exploration and resource companies. And we take those to heart and live by those principles. A little bit about the team. So Cherie and I work together at Rio Tinto. We're both exploration geologists. I've been in the resource industry for 22 years now. We've had a number of successful exploration companies particularly, but we've also built projects like the Matabe gold mine in Indonesia. I built a project in Far Eastern Russia, a coking coal project called Amam North. So we've got exploration capability, but also development capability. Cherie's founded a number of companies and had a successful track record in those companies before moving to Nevada about 6 years ago, and built a very successful business of acquiring properties and selling those to other groups like Waterton and the like. And so she's got a tremendous track record there. And Dave Johnson, our VP of Exploration, again, ex-Rio Tinto, and he's had a tremendous track record of success in the US over the last 10 years as well. So very, very strong people there. I'll just point out on this slide here about the team that we've got a great, great bench depth and strength. But we brought Walter Coles onto the board 6 months ago. Walt and I have been instrumental in advancing Skeena from, when we got involved, a $20 million market cap company, to just touching on $1 billion today, advancing that Eskay Creek project. And of course, what we did a bit differently there was we acquired Eskay Creek and Snip off Barrick. So another transaction with a major that's been transformative for Skeena and helped us advance that towards $1 billion market cap. Walt's advancing that Eskay Creek project towards towards development and on into production over the next 3 years. And he's done a tremendous job of building that relationship with Barrick, another major, and so having his capability on the board, helping us out with how we address other acquisition opportunities and also work better with Newmont is so very crucial. So we've got a very strong board in that sense. We'll skip over the rest of the board. Of course, this is all on our website, and the presentation's on our website, so you can delve into that a bit further. We'll now move on to the Sandman property. Cherie, hopefully you're okay to go with that. I should say that Cherie's been a little bit under the weather of late, and so if she loses her voice, I'll have to step in and present the
Thank you very much, Greg.
Won't do it justice.
Cheers, Greg. So Sandman is where the majority of our funds are being spent. Sandman is located along strike of the Sleeper deposit. And Sleeper was one of the richest gold mines ever discovered in the state of Nevada. It was discovered in the 80s by Amex by a geologist named John Wood. And John is now advising and mentoring our team in discovering another Sleeper style deposit within our geology at Sandman. Similar geology, similar structure, same age rocks. And we're looking for another Sleeper style deposit, epithermal gold deposit here at Sandman. The project's done the rounds a couple of times. It was originally discovered by Kennecott in the mid-80s, and we purchased the project from Newmont. 100% of the project was acquired for a cash transaction, so there's no nasty clawbacks. It's 100% Gold Bulls asset. Newmont spent about $20 million on the project. They were in an earn-in joint venture with Frontier, and then they ended up taking Frontier out for a few $1 billion for their Long Canyon asset. And we've got a wealth of data, over $20 million of Newmont data on the project. So, I mean, we've got more data than our current market cap. That data has proven up a resource. When we acquired the project earlier this year, it was 310,000 ounces. That's since grown to 494,000 ounces of gold that's essentially sitting between the surface and bottom 100 meters. That gold, for the most part, is outcropping. And our project's area is predominantly actually undercover. Majority of Sandman lies under unconsolidated sand, and the majority of that sand cover has not been adequately explored. The previous explorers have really flocked to the outcrop. Where there is outcrop, they've been fortunate in defining that circa 500,000 ounces that we have today. On this page, you can see on the map that we've got 4 small deposits that form our 500,000 ounces: Able Knoll, Southeast Pediment, Silica Ridge, and North Hill, defined by those red polygons. These resources amount to that 494,000 ounces, and they remain open in just about every direction. So we've got high confidence that we can grow that 500,000 ounces. But why we really are excited about this project is for the 5 million ounce potential. We're looking for another Sleeper, not just looking to grow these small resources that amount to 500,000 ounces. They really limit the downside, because having a predominantly oxide at surface resource in Nevada doesn't usually stay in the ground very long. When we looked at the data, we realized that at the time, about 1%, since we've done more drilling, 1.7% of the drill holes are deeper than 250 meters. And that's just astounding, given that the main target is beneath that 250 meters, which I'll get onto in the next slide. Another real selling point for our company was the fact that this project has a plan of operation, which is a really comprehensive environmental plan, which allows us to disturb up to 500 acres within this big polygon. We've got over a 20-kilometer strike of gold mineralization anomalism, 10 kilometers wide in our tenure. And we're able to just hit the ground running. And the day after it was transferred from Newmont's name to our name, we had a dozer on site, and the next day we had drill rig on site. So it's quite telling that, firstly, the majority of the project is sand covered, and a lot of that has not been drilled, and the outcrop that has been drilled has not been drilled deep enough. So this is a very important slide. This is our exploration model at Sandman. And basically, these lines represent fault structures. The green is young rocks. The cream on the bottom, is the older rocks. And as the gold travels up a fault zone, the first place it's going to deposit is the first pressure release zone. Now, at Sandman, that first pressure release zone is going to be the contact, that geological contact that's sitting between the green rocks and the cream rocks. However, ourselves and our predecessors have focused on this previous target zone above that, sitting between the surface and about 100 meters. That's the second pressure release zone. That's where the paleo water table was when the gold was depositing. So we've, for example, we've inherited a resource like this pink area here, and we see that it's open. So we've been drilling here, and we've been drilling here in the last 6 months, and we've been increasing that resource. However, we've engaged John Woods in an advisory mentorship capacity who found Sleeper. And John has said, guys, you have to be looking here. Like, nobody is being looking here in the most obvious pressure release zone. That is where he found Sleeper. So we've changed our exploration model thinking. Instead of chasing resource extensions for this area, our next exploration program, which is scheduled to commence in November, is going to be looking for these bonanza deposits beneath. We're very much interested in this geological contact. This is the same contact that is known to host a number of world-class epithermal project gold deposits in Nevada. And the fabulous news is that it's not too deep for us to test using an RC rig. There's a scale bar on the right-hand side. For the most part, it's between 200 and 300 meters below the surface. We'll have a couple of holes that go up to 400 meters. However, that's pretty shallow drilling looking for a multi-million ounce gold target. The quotes on the right is basically saying John thinks there's a good chance we've got something like a multi-million ounce deposit, given that we've got gold anomalism known over the surface spanning more than 15 kilometers, and that's indicative of our known gold resources. The next couple of slides are some of our highlights from our recent drill program. So we've drilled almost 6,000 meters of RC this year to date, and we've had immense success in our drill results. We've drilled 3 of our 4 known resources, and we've extended all 3 of those known resources. And when I say extended, we've announced gold mineralization outside the current resource polygon. At Able Knoll, we had some spectacular intersects, including 100 meters at over 2 grams a ton, which appears to be oxidized. And that mineralization also remains open, including a high-grade zone, which was going at about 10 grams a ton over a 6-meter wide interval. Sticking with Able Knoll, we've also intersected very broad, low-grade mineralization outside of our known resource, including 90 meters at 0.6 grams a ton. This was one of our last holes for the program, and I think it's a really significant hole. Not only is it outside our known resource, it remains open, and it's oxidized. So in Nevada, currently they're mining Marigold 0.35 grams a ton gold at a low strip ratio. If it's oxidized, if the recovery is good, you can really mine some very low grade numbers and have very profitable operations. So when I see 90 meter wide zone, only 70 meters below the surface, I start thinking low strip ratio and bulk tonnage potential. So at Sandman, we definitely have 2 targets. We've got our bulk tonnage low grade gold target, and we also have our very high grade gold narrow vein sleeper style target. And we're certainly looking for both. Now we move to North Hill. These kind of numbers are very similar to what you saw in the Sleeper Bonanza number. So we're pretty excited by some of these intersections, including Gold Bull's recent drill hole that got 13 meters at 20 grams a ton gold. And that's a shallow intersection from 41 meters. These drill holes, these black lines on this map, are average 70, 75 meters deep. So we're talking really shallow intersections here for some pretty sensational high-grade hits. 100% of our North Hill resource is oxide. Recoveries are excellent. And North Hill is a prime example of the geological model that I presented a few slides earlier. This is what I think of North Hill. This little, I'm sorry, I'm going to start sharing my screen. So this little deposit here is North Hill. And now our exploration program is going to be looking down here, looking at this multi-million ounce potential at below North Hill. We've got these high-grade vectors that we're using at North Hill. There's a number of high-grade intersects in our drilling, and we're now modeling that in a software called Leapfrog. And we're using these high-grade hits as vector planes to position our drill holes beneath the known mineralization. No one's drilled a few hundred meters beneath these bonanza intersections. So it's just absolutely crazy that you've got things like this still available in Nevada. So as I mentioned before, our resource has increased by 60%. Since then, we've done almost 6,000 meters of drilling, and we've hit gold mineralization in a number of holes outside our known resource. So we're pretty confident that that resource is continuing to grow. The average grade of the known resource is 0.7 grams a ton. Majority is in indicated and majority is oxide. So it bodes very well for your typical Nevadan operation. So about 90% of our funds and focus is currently at Sandman. However, we also have 2 other projects. We have Big Boulders, which is a drill-ready asset. We have another early-stage Carlin-style project called Lookout that we're still working up to work out whether it's a drill-ready asset. Big Boulders is another one that we find pretty exciting because it's pretty unusual that you have 2 significant gold trends at the junction of the structural trends open and available. So we acquired this project on the junction of the Carlin trend, the Biter trend, both prolific gold trends that host more deposits than anywhere else in the state. Our Big Boulders target is located about 10 kilometers to the west of Bald Mountain Mine. Bald Mountain is an operating mine owned by Kinross. And at Bald Mountain, you can see this ground disturbance on Google Earth. It's trending in this direction along this Biter trend. At Bald Mountain, there's something like 5,000 drill holes in this mountain to find this mineralization. Within our project, we have 0 drill holes. This area within Big Boulders is what we call a pediment play. So it's covered by cover. It's covered by alluvial cover. And as a result, the previous explorers have just neglected it, despite it being located on this very prolific structural junction and a long strike of a known 5 million ounce gold deposit. So we've done geophysics, we've analysed gravity and magnetics data to come up with some very compelling targets that appear like lookalike intrusions. They look similar in the geophysics to Bald Mountain, and there's only one way to test whether they're gold bearing, and that's to drill the things. So we've got a fully permitted drill program, and we're ready to drill approximately 8 holes. Drilling those 8 RC holes will cost us between $200,000 and $250,000 US. And then we're either going to have another winner, another world-class exploration discovery, or it's going to be we got it wrong and we've lost $200,000, $250,000. So we're looking for elephants in elephant country here at Big Boulders, and we're really excited to put a few holes into this target. I might hand over to Craig, if that's okay, Craig.
Yeah, well done, Cherie. Thank you for that. So look, there you have it. Those projects are some of the best that I've ever been involved in. You can tell there, Cherie's got a tremendous team, but does a tremendous job herself. You know, a serious geologist with a great track record, of course. And we've got fantastic projects with tremendous upside. But for me, the key here is, and of course, you know, on a day like yesterday and today, it's pretty hard to get the attention of investors in what is a really miserable market, in a miserable day here in Vancouver. But I think the key to my mind, and the reason I really see value in this company at the moment, are a couple of key things. Firstly, and this is, you know, in part my principles for investing in projects and companies. But firstly, you know, you've got to back the team. And so having a team, you know, with the capability that Cherie has built there is something very rare in the junior resource space. These are all serious, seasoned, successful explorers with a great track record of discovery and success. So you know the projects are going to advance well. And it's no surprise that we've ended up with Sandman, which I think is one of the very best projects in Nevada. Because generally the better people always get the better projects. And here's a good example of that with what Cherie's done there with Newmont. The other thing is, you know, when I invest personally, I look for projects or companies where the downside's protected. And here, you know, that's an intersection of the valuation at the moment, less than $20 million market cap, underpinned by 500 million ounce resource sitting at surface in one of the best jurisdictions in the world where you can build a mine. So I think that's worth a hell of a lot more than the current valuation. So that downside's protected. And then the other thing, so downside for investors, I should say, is protected. But the upside here is unlimited, and Cherie's outlined very clearly there, not only the resource base, the fact that we're growing that near surface resource base, and, you know, it's not hard to see 1 million ounces coming out of the next couple of drill programs. So that's, you know, that's looking good. But those sleeper targets that sit below the resource base that we have there at Sandman, I think are, you know, some of the best gold exploration targets in the world today, and certainly in Nevada. And of course, that's the other thing about this, is having exposure to gold in the US, in Nevada, which is of course one of the very best jurisdictions in the world to both explore and develop mines. That really sort of underscores the potential here and the value. And then, lastly, the other key thing here, and of course we've got those other fantastic projects, Big Balls sitting, extraordinary that we could acquire that project sitting right next door to Kinross's Bald Mountain with 5 million ounces in resource base and a producing mine. So, lots of upside there, not just at Sandman, but our other projects. And then finally, of course, the thing that's sort of so very important is to keep drilling. Now we've had a little break in drilling. We've still got some assays to come, so there's some good positive news to come. And then in the coming month, we'll be back out there and drilling some more holes and in and around that known resource, and targeting under the resource base into looking for a sleeper style deposit. And of course, we've put out some spectacular drill results over the last 6 to 12 months. You can, I think, expect more of that as we get in and do that drilling work. So the news flow over the next 6 to 12 months is going to be tremendous. So all of those things, team, downside protection, huge upside risk, and a very active work program are the key things that I think drive value in our sector and provide opportunity in our sector. And Gold Bull ticks all of those boxes so very, very well. So that's probably it from me, Tim. Cherie, anything more to add there?
No, great job, Craig. I think that we're also on the hunt for additional acquisitions and are also exploring friendly merger opportunities. There's a number of undervalued companies and projects out there at the moment, so we're seeing this as a shopping opportunity to bolster our portfolio in Gold Bull.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Cherie and Craig, for a very informative presentation. We'll now start the Q&A portion of this webinar. A reminder to everyone on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We already do have a few questions. First off, what experience does the team have in raising equity?
I can answer that if you like, Tim. Thank you for that question. Look, we've got tremendous experience, I suppose. Cherie and I grew up at Rio Tinto together, where you don't get much exposure to that. I left Rio Tinto in 2008 to join Owen Hegarty and Oxiana, and then Owen and I left and started the Tigers Realm Group. When I was there, we raised over $500 million to advance our projects, and that gave me good exposure to capital markets. And since that time, as I mentioned, I was a co-founder of NextGen Energy. We've raised over $500 million in that company, including from Li Ka-shing, who's become the major shareholder there. And then all of my other companies, I think I've been involved in capital raisings of over $1 billion in the past 5 years, including $220 million last year. And we're on track again to raise, I've got a personal target of raising $500 million this year. We've got the projects and the people to do that. And we have, great connection into capital markets through all of the banks, of course, Red Cloud and a number of other banks and brokerages. And also, we've sort of got a very good reputation now with most fund managers around the world, so we can pick up a phone and raise equity pretty quickly. On the register here at Gold Bull, we've got some very well-known fund managers and high net worth individuals, including the Flannery family, a couple of billionaires out of Australia that are there, that are major shareholders here, and continue to back us, and are ready to write bigger checks for anything that we need, particularly to make acquisitions or bring projects into development. So, we've got all of that experience.
Great, thank you, Craig. Another question here from one of the listeners. Can you explain a little bit about why Newmont would have parted with the project that looks so promising? And do they have an equity stake in Gold Bull?
So a couple of years ago, Newmont essentially sold the majority of their assets in Nevada, including all of their operating assets, to form Nevada Gold Mines, which is a joint venture between Barrick and Newmont. And as part of that process, for some reason, this asset fell to the west of the joint venture boundary. The boundary takes up the majority of the state, but there's a line drawn in the middle between Turquoise Ridge Mine and Sandman for some reason. So I can only presume that Barrick saw 300,000 ounces that it was back then and thought, we're not interested in 300,000 ounces, and probably didn't have the time to do a deep dive into every single project. That I'm sure their due diligence was focused on operating assets and multi-million ounce resources. So it missed the Nevada Gold Mines joint venture, and as a result, it was stuck in Newmont. Newmont, again, aren't really focused on 300,000 ounce resources. So I approached the Newmont team, and over the course of a 12-month period or so, was able to structure a win-win transaction. They don't have an equity stake in this particular project. It was a cash transaction. There are a couple of royalties already overhanging. They spoke about wanting a royalty, but at the end of the day, we didn't want to have a high royalty on this asset because it would be prohibitive to production. And they understood that logic and were okay not putting a royalty on top of the existing royalty. So that was a very a painless transaction with the Newmont folk, and we really hope it's the first of many. And hopefully in other transactions we can have different deal structures that expose each other to each other's successes.
Great. And a little follow-up on that. Is the transactions all complete? You're now 100%? It's not an earn-in kind of staged kind of thing.
No, we purchased, as Craig mentioned, we raised 14 million Canadian in November, December last year, and the majority of the money went out the door day one to purchase 100% of the project in cash. So we paid cash for the 100% of the project, and it's in our name. It's been in our name since December 2020. So it's a clean deal.
Great. One kind of different question, more on the operating side, but are there any permitting or operating challenges given the sand dunes on the project?
No, we are fortunate, again, because of Newmont's comprehensive environmental baseline studies. I think to replicate would cost about $5 million and take a couple of years. So we've got biological studies, ecological studies, hydrogeological studies, cultural studies, you name it, blanketing our project. And they haven't identified any sensitive species. There's nothing endangered within our project. And we've got such comprehensive data that we can say that with confidence. Plan of operations aren't handed out lightly by the Bureau of Land Management. And we have a plan of operation that covers our entire tenure. The sand dunes do get us bogged a little bit in summer, but other than that, that's about the only problem they cause.
Do you have any special equipment or things you have to use, or is it just kind of standard drilling equipment?
Standard drilling equipment, and then if we get bogged, we'll get the backhoe to pull us out. But in fact, it's actually sometimes easier for us to drill in the sand dunes in the winter when the sand is essentially frozen. And we can drill 12 months a year on this project. It's a low elevation project with very easy access, and that's why we plan to be starting around November this year when the ground is getting a little bit harder and the sand's freezing up a bit.
Great. Has any of your drilling thus far or any of the past drilling encountered indicators of higher grade root systems at Sandman?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of drilling that has gone deep. In some of the rare holes that have gone beneath 250 meters and that have penetrated that geological contact, we do have gold anomalism. So we're getting a little bit excited about the fact that we've got elevated gold at that geological contact. And it's certainly something that we intend to chase up in this current drill program that we've got planned.
Are there plans to drill at Big Boulders in the near term?
Yes, currently rigs are a little hard to come by here in Nevada, and during the winter, there's a lot of projects that can't operate at high elevation, so that their rigs stand down. So come November, we'll have a choice of a lot of drill rigs, and as soon as we get our hands on a drill rig, then we'll have to make the hard decision: do we send it to Sandman or Big Boulders first? We haven't exactly made that decision internally because there's pros and cons to both. That we would very much like to drill Big Boulders in Q4 this year, or at the latest Q1 next year. It's ready to go.
Great. And one question that's more of a general kind of corporate strategy question, but what is the long-term plan for the company? Do you want to become a mining company and perhaps acquire other projects, or would you look to advance the project and merge or sell to a producer?
I think we're open to all options. You know, we always progress as if we're going to become a producer. And quite often in our track record in the past, we get taken out before that happens, but we always progress as if we are going to become a miner.
Great. One question, a little more technical on the geologic side, but based on some of the sections in some of the press releases, it looks like the deposit at Sandman might be broken up by faults, post-deposition faults. Is that the case, or are those part of part of the fluid conduits for the mineralization?
It's a bit of both. We have a couple of different generations of faults there. Faults certainly play a very important role in being conduits for that gold mineralization. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing quite a bit of geophysics, because the geophysics really highlights both the structure. So the magnetics highlights our faults quite nicely. And we've got very detailed magnetics data for the entire project, again, courtesy of Newmont. And we're also doing quite a bit of 3D IP and IP CSAMT, which basically looks for resistivity contrast in rocks, which we interpret to be alteration changes where the hydrothermal fluids have flown. So the answer is really both. The faults control some of the mineralization, and some of the later faults have also chopped up a bit of our deposits. It's not too structurally complex, and the magnetics data really highlights the structure very nicely.
Great. One question on the metallurgy side. Are the sulfides at Sandman free milling or refractory?
So we've announced quite a lot of metallurgical work in our 43101, again, courtesy of the Newmont generation. They did metallurgical test work on both the oxide, the transition, and the sulfide components. And we got very good recoveries. They got very good recoveries, including from a bulk test pit at Southeast Pediment. And there's a lot of detail and met work in our 43101. So I definitely encourage you to look there. It's available on our website. And essentially it's free milling, and they got over 85% recovery for the sulfides, and for the oxide it was up to low 90% recovery. So they tested 10 different ore types, and we're getting over the 80s and closer to 90 for the bulk of their metallurgical test results.
Great. Perhaps an advantage of this being an epithermal system instead of a Carlin system. Most Carlin systems are refractory in the sulfide. Right.
Yeah, we have. It appears that our sulfide appears quite nuggety. We were seeing visible gold earlier this year, so that was another challenge when it came to assaying, to make sure we weren't underreporting that nuggety gold, which generally tends to settle at the bottom of a bag. Because of the coarse nature of the gold. So yeah, epithermals, I'd say, are definitely a little easier when it comes to metallurgy than Carlin.
Great. And kind of one question I would ask, just kind of in summary, but just to review, what news and what activity would we expect to hear from the company in the coming weeks and months?
We've got some bottle roll network of our own that's coming up soon. That 90 meters at 0.6 grams a ton. The first thing I wanted to know is what's the recovery of that? If it's good recovery, we're going to chase that a lot harder and faster than we will if it wasn't good recovery. So we'll know that in the coming days. And we've also got additional drilling that's planned, really high impact drilling, like big bores, for example. It's potentially a game changer. And we've got these sleeper targets that we're intending to put drill holes in come November. So a lot on. We'll be announcing more details on our drill program and our high priority targets that are being born today, with my team's meeting with John Wood right now in Reno to really narrow down these drill targets. And we're very excited to drill this next round of untested geology at Sandman.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions we have at this time. I would like to thank Cherie Leiden and Craig Perry from Gold Bull Resources for presenting today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for your questions today as well. Just a reminder that Red Cloud Securities will be back tomorrow, Thursday, September 30th, when our webinar series continues as we present baseload energy at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Thanks, Tim.
Cheers, guys.